G'day everyone, Chris here from holdthesugar.com.au. Thought I'd come to you today to do a quick video on how to use the Ketogains Macro Calculator. It is the only one that we'd recommend using because they put an emphasis on adequate protein intake to preserve lean body mass. Basically, they want you eating enough protein not to lose muscle mass, whereas a lot of the other calculators out there don't put that emphasis on protein. They completely forgo it. They don't care if you lose muscle mass. The thing about muscle mass is it's really hard earned and really easily lost, so let's preserve that. Also, just a quick shout out to the people at Ketogains. It's a great calculator. So yeah, let's get into it. First off, you're going to see the body composition section here. Pretty straightforward sort of area. You only need to put your weight and body fat percentage in. So if you calculate in pounds, throw your pounds in. If you're calculating kilos, you put your kilos in. So we use 90 kilos as an example. And then you move on to the next section, which is body fat percentage. Now, most people aren't going to know their body fat percentage. There's a few ways you can work this out. You can go get a DEXA scan. You can, if your gym has body fat calipers and someone that knows how to use them, you can do that, unless you know how to do it yourself, of course. There's a Navy method, which if you Google, will give you some formulas to work out your weight. Otherwise, another way is just to use this guide here. It's a visual estimate of body fat. So you click on that link, which will open this page here. And as you see, you'll have different body types with different body fat levels. And you basically just need to pick the one that resembles you the closest. Now, be honest with yourself. It can be a bit confronting, but if you really want results, you need to be honest with yourself here, because otherwise it's going to give you a different result and you're not going to be eating the right macros. So for the gents, this is the one you need to focus on. For the ladies, it's a little bit further down, so we'll drill down towards the bottom here and you'll see the options here. So same again, be honest with yourself and pick the one that most closely resembles you. There's a bit of a mistake here. This should read 45 to 49%, so just keep that in mind. Alright, and once you've worked out which one most closely resembles you, jump back over here. And I actually had a DEXA scan the other day, so I know I'm at about 23%, so I'll pop that in there. Alright, and then we move on to activity level. Now, the thing with the activity level is it's really hard to calculate how much energy you're burning during the day, and we're doing this one here for fat loss. I'm still wanting to lose some body fat, so we're going to stay with fat loss. Now I work an office job, so it's pretty sedentary, so I'm going to pick that. Now, I'd highly recommend, unless you are in a really physically intensive job, I would stick with sedentary. It's going to put you at a greater calorie deficit, which is going to mean better losses. If you do find yourself really struggling for energy, it's something that we can look at changing later on, but to begin with, I would choose sedentary here. We go down further and we come to the daily calories. You'll want to choose lose fat here, and the default calorie deficit is set at 20%. Now, this is a pretty good deficit to stick with. It's not going to be super difficult where you're not able to actually stick with it. And it's going to be enough that you're going to see some notable changes reasonably quickly. You're going to see some changes in the scale, and within a couple of months, possibly sooner, you should start to see some physical changes, especially if you take photos. So I'll stick with 20% here. If you are finding it really hard to stick to this much of a deficit, you can obviously decrease it. You can go down to 10%. Just keep in mind that obviously your results will be a bit slower. If you're wanting to speed things up, you can increase the deficit a bit. That's up to you. I would not recommend going higher than 30%. There's a few reasons for that which I won't get into now, but we'll stick with 20% for now. Now, in terms of daily exercise, I don't recommend eating back exercise calories. The main reason for this is it's really hard to track, and I know people use Fitbits and other kinds of tools, and I know that at the gym you've got different pieces of equipment to try and measure your heart rate and this and this and that, but at the end of the day it's really hard to track how many calories you're actually expending when you're doing exercise. Because we're wanting to lose fat anyway, we're not going to eat these calories back. So we're actually going to go and set this to 0. Alright, and that's going to bring us here to our daily macros. Alright, now for somebody that isn't lifting weights, you don't really need to touch any more than this. Alright, so your daily calories are going to be here, 1641. Alright, your protein macro, you're going to need 122 grams of protein a day, 25 grams of net carbs, and 117 grams of fat. Now that's for someone that isn't doing any heavy lifting, that isn't at the gym doing heavy weights, looking to increase their muscle mass. Alright, so for a lot of you, that's going to be all you need to do. Now if you are somebody that is going to the gym regularly and doing weights and wanting to increase their lean body mass, we're going to tick this Ketogains recommended box. What that does is it changes this value here to 1. It's going to put even more of an emphasis on protein to ensure that all the effort that you're putting into the gym isn't going to be wasted. Before we tick that box, we need to have a look here, and we notice that our daily calories are 1641, and you're going to see this change when you tick the box. What we need to remember to do is, because this has now changed to 1765 from 1641, we're eating more calories, which is going to mean that our fat loss is going to slow down. So what we want to do, if we want to keep the same rate of loss, we're actually going to manually lower our fat intake until we get that number back down to 1641. Alright, and so you're going to see 1639, that's pretty close. I'm fairly happy with that, and these will become my macros. Alright, 153 grams of protein, 25 grams of net carbs, and 103 grams of fat. Alright, and that's really all there is to it. Obviously, your macros aren't going to be the same as mine. Everybody's going to be different because we all have different weights, different amounts of lean body mass. So use, make sure you accurately estimate your body fat percentage, whether you use a DEXA, whether you visually estimate it, or whether you use one of the other methods. Alright, and you should actually redo your macros reasonably regularly. They usually recommend every 10 to 15 pounds you should redo these. More so if you're getting regular DEXAs and your body fat percentage is changing a fair bit. If you do see that your progress slows at all, you're not losing at the same rate that you were before, that is okay. We often go through stalls, and we don't call it a stall until about the 6-week mark, but it can be handy just to come here and redo our macros, and that way at least we know we're still on the right track. Alright, thanks guys.